Hi, I'm Mike Broadwell with the Breakthrough Factory, and I'm here to provide some overview on copywriting. So I hope you enjoy this brief presentation. I just wanted you to see my face so you know who's talking to you, and we'll jump into the slides now. Thanks. Now to start with, I'm going to talk about what copywriting is online in kind of a big picture way so that we can really demystify it a lot. The technical side and the differentness of the internet from our normal way of doing things is what I think throws a lot of people off. But it's still human communication at its core. It's what we call direct response copywriting, which means it's a one-to-one communication, trying to move someone to take an action, whether that's join an email list, buy a product, consume a video, read a blog post, whatever moves that relationship further. It's one of the touches that we would have as we build a normal relationship with anyone. We meet someone on a date. We want to have another date. Maybe we like them. We want to meet them again. We get to know them more and more. The more touches we have, the more interaction we have with them. That essentially is what copywriting is doing, with one key difference. That person is not there in the room with us. We can't look in their eyes and see, are they tracking with me? Am I boring them? Am I confusing them? Am I angering them? Or what's going on, right? They just click away and they disappear. So the magic of it is it's conversations that we've always had. We just probably haven't taken them apart and looked at the elements and understood how to put them together in a way that allows us to have a two-way interactive conversation that builds trust, that builds a relationship with someone who can't see us directly, or we can't see them and get their feedback and get their body language. We have to know, for the most part, that we've eliminated anything that's going to confuse them or anger them or upset them as much as possible. It's not possible for everyone, obviously, but we need to really think through the elements of what we're presenting in order to make that connection with that person, not with an audience. We would never think of it as like we're giving a TED Talk. That's a totally different thing. Now, the most important thing when you're creating copy, whether it's web copy, video copy, doesn't really matter, wherever you're using copy, is the context in which the potential buyer, customer, client is finding your message. What is the context of their life? They're actually looking for an answer. They're looking for you to be the one. They don't want to keep on an endless search, looking all over the place to try to find something. They want to find the answer. It's just like if you're out shopping and you want to find that pair of shoes or that dress or that coat or suit or whatever, that car. Unless you just like to shop, and some people do, and that's fun, and they don't care how long it takes. And most of us like to get what we're trying to get and move on to the next thing. So think about that. Your customer wants you to have the answer, but in the back of their mind, there's going to be a lot of doubts and questions all swimming around, more or less, depending on the niche you're in and on the type of service you're offering. If it's something maybe way out from what their normal worldview is like, or their normal frame of reference, they may really have some doubts. Or you may be in a field that just naturally creates doubt. Used car salesman is the stereotypical one, right? So again, these questions may not be top of mind, but they're swimming around in this kind of mixed feeling between, oh my gosh, is this the one? I'd love this to be the one, but oh, what if there are all these negatives? I like to think of it in terms of a blind date. Most of us have been on a blind date at some point, and think maybe back to the time before the internet and Facebook and Google. You didn't know a lot about the person. Your friend might set you up with somebody, and you're going to meet them for the first time. A lot of times you never even saw a picture of them. You're going to go meet them in a coffee shop, and you're kind of thinking, wow, it'd be great if this was a terrific person I hit it off with, and what if she's the one or he's the one, whatever. But almost equally or maybe even more are these doubts like, oh gosh, what if he or she just can't get a date and my friend is just trying to be nice to him and sticking them with me, and oh my gosh, oh, what if they're this or that? And there's all these negatives, a very mixed emotion. So that's to some degree how your clients or potential clients, customers, are approaching your web page. How do I know you're the one that can share this? This sounds wonderful. I really need this solution, but can I trust you? That's going to be swimming around in the back of their mind. So you've got to answer those questions in a natural way, in a way that flows conversationally, like in a normal conversation. So think again to the blind date scenario. The lady's sitting there, she's thinking maybe more or less top of mind, or maybe more under the surface, boy, I hope this guy has a job. I hope he doesn't live with his mother, all these things, right? So maybe a little humorous, but I don't know how far off it is. You know, it's the kind of thing that can come up. So how would you address that if you're the man? You wouldn't want to say, oh, and by the way, I have a job and I don't live with mom. Not really a very natural way to do it. A bit weird and probably almost as off-putting as if you didn't have a job or lived with mom. So how could you address that? Well, what if you instead related a story? You know, the other day I was driving into work and had a big meeting on my mind, but I saw this little puppy and he's getting awful close to the road, and there's a lot of traffic on this road, and I said, this poor little puppy, he probably didn't have enough sense to stay out of the road. And I'd sure hate for something to happen to him. Some little girl or boy loses their cute little puppy. So I pulled over and ran back and kind of knelt down and got him to come up to me, and I petted him and I picked him up and ran to the first house, and that wasn't the one, but about the third one I went to, fortunately the owner was still there, and I said, oh my gosh, the puppy got out of the fence, and so thankful that I brought it back. So anyway, I told him no problem and ran back to my car because I had to get to the office. But I thought, you know, I should call mom because mom loves this type of puppy. She loves wiener dogs or whatever they are. And as about to dial her, I realized, wait a minute, she's an hour behind me. She's probably not even up yet. I don't want to wake her up at this hour. I'll tell her tonight. I need to call her. I owe her a call. It's been a week or two. And I try to call her every week or two just to make sure she's doing okay. So anyway, I knew she'd love this puppy, so on. So that's a beautiful story that's not only answered these lingering doubts without them really even brought to the surface, but he's answered the question. He does have a job. He doesn't live with mom. Even better, he's shown himself to be a caring, thoughtful, compassionate. I mean, what lady's not going to really be moved by the story of someone stopping to take care of a puppy? So you can see, not telling you to make stuff up, but look into your life, look into the context of what you've done, and how can you weave that into a story that answers objections while moving trust and belief in you further. That's what we're talking about understanding context and really creating a narrative that's natural and normal, that would seem like a normal conversation thing you would tell to somebody at a party or at the office or on a date. All right, we're going to show a sales page here, and I'm going to use my own just because I understand it pretty well, and it's copyright free in my case, so I don't have to worry about that. And just to give you some quick overview of what you might find in a typical sales page, and they can vary quite a bit. There is no real standard out there. It's most marketing is people copying what's worked for somebody else or what they think's worked for somebody else. Even that comes with a caveat because you need to understand all the surroundings, all the context of how something has worked and why, rather than just blindly copying something. But in general, we want to start with a headline. Obviously, that's grabbing the attention. That's when someone walks in the room at a party. You see them, maybe their hair stands out or their clothing or something about them. You're drawn to them. You want to go meet them. So that headline, in the case of copy, should be something that really appeals to the outcome the target market would like to have. It's something that, obviously, we want to draw the right person. You could do something crazy. We see a lot of it on social media, but is it really drawing us to the right person versus just a crazy person that might, by luck, be the right person, but we don't want to count on that. We want to really understand that. Create a headline that just naturally grabs attention, and the goal then is to get them to read the next sentence. So here, what I'm doing is trying to really draw someone in, just as if you walked up to someone you didn't know at a party and you want to start a conversation. Maybe it's a little awkward at first. How do I jump in there? Well, it can make all the difference, right? If you come in and say something stupid or come up with some line that you heard in a movie, or if you just genuinely can say something that shows you connect with them as a human being, that you're empathetic or you are interested in them or something like that that really connects with you, that gets them to want to carry on the conversation more until you can kind of build that momentum, which can take a little bit of time. So what happens then is they will keep reading, and generally in this case what I'm doing is I'm starting kind of with a big picture idea about you want to stand out in your market. You don't want to be a commodity, right? So what I've done is kind of create a good distinction for them. Do you want to be special or do you want to be a commodity? Do people pay more for special or for commodity? So again, I'm kind of creating a big framework, and then I will get more and more specific as I go along, rather than just jumping into specifics. Now, if this was a screwdriver or a can opener, or maybe even a car, I might could jump in much more quickly to, would you like a left-handed can opener, or would you like one that doesn't hurt your hands when you have to squeeze it real hard, that sort of thing. The more specific, the more they already understand about the product you're selling, the less setup and build up you have to do, just like with a conversation. If you jump in a conversation with somebody and you find out you have a friend in common, and, oh, well, yeah, I live down the street from Jimmy. Oh, yeah, Jimmy's house. I know exactly. That saves a lot of time versus you trying to explain from scratch, right? So all these things will come into play depending on your particular product and situation. So I start with kind of a big picture thing, really trying to open the mind up to ask some questions, because a question will get someone engaged versus just hammering things at them. And this is not done, in my case, as one of these, try to make money online or sell something or that sort of thing. This is a higher end program, but it's really designed for a person in a particular stage of their marketing life, if you want to say. So I'm really getting them to think about things, asking questions, trying to build out a context in a natural way, and then as I kind of get the story going, I build it out. I bring in some of my own experience into the story, as you would naturally, right? You wouldn't just want to talk about yourself the whole time in a conversation, but something might come up, and then you would say, oh yeah, I remember when I did blah, 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 right? So it's a kind of thing that, like any natural conversation, is going to have a mixture of stories and maybe ideas or thoughts. I've always thought it would be cool if we could have something like this, and it reminded me of that because I did this when I was a kid and nobody understood me or whatever, So the personal touch is great because it's, as we talked about earlier, is building your credibility, answering those questions in the back of your reader's mind. So as we go down, we go from the more general to the more specific, from more of the big picture to the more focused in. But again, this is kind of, in my case, I'm still not highly specific here. I'm kind of giving them a big of what each element of my program will do. And then I mix in some testimonials. Again, these should come naturally in the flow. Oh, I remember I showed Jenny my painting and she loved it. Oh yeah, Jenny's got a good eye for art, right? So that carried the situation, carried the story forward, and gave some credibility to what I'm doing. So again, everything in the natural flow, in the natural context. Now, these headlines and things are good to break up. You want to make something very easy to read, especially online, very smooth flowing, short paragraphs, and really work to make things flow. And it's not a quick and easy thing often. So pictures and things break things up. And then again, we go more and more to details. Again, I'm going back and forth kind of in a conversational flow here. And eventually I will get down to another testimonial, again, more graphics to help build things up, and then more specifics even so. I give an overview of an audio interview, and then I get into the actual elements. So all these things taken together are to create a natural narrative that takes people down a path you'd like to take them, tries to answer the questions they're going to have in the back of their head, removes the risk, removes the as much as you can, because obviously people are very risk averse, and they should be. Again, you can hit the highlights again, let people know once again, just to keep reminding them. And then in this case, I'm actually just taking them to apply it for a small fee. Even though this is a higher dollar program, they can sample it for a very low fee, and then I can talk to them directly. So you don't have to sell people necessarily to buy directly from a web page. That's going to depend on your product. And again, I give a whole bunch of extra Q&A sort of things here that can, again, try to address those questions. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things. Like, this is a pretty long sales letter. And some people say, oh, nobody wants to read a long sales letter. Well, that's like saying nobody wants to have a long conversation anymore. Well, maybe in general people don't, but the right people will. You're not going to arbitrarily cut off a conversation with somebody because your friend said you should never talk more than 6 minutes to somebody you just met. What if they're fascinating and you're just having a marvelous time and you talk to them all night at a party and ignore everybody else. Well, it might hurt your social standing a little bit, but you're not going to just arbitrarily cut it off. There is no standard. There is no rule. Same with a video. How long should a video be? How long does it need to be? How long does it need to convey the message without the fluff and without padding and without wasting somebody's time? So don't get boxed in by these rules and rules of thumb and all this. Just really think of what you're doing. You're trying to deliver a message, and the best way you can do that is the best way you can do it.